They laugh now. They question you. They whisper. They roll their eyes when you say no, when you stay home, when you choose growth over gossip. But one day those same people will copy your silence. They still mirror your power. They still call your discipline lucky. Comment, "I move in silence," if you're done explaining your path. You don't owe them clarity. You owe yourself results. When you're walking a path they've never seen, of course they won't understand it. Of course they'll call it strange. You weren't made to be understood. You were made to be followed. But not yet. Not now. First, you must build. They judge you because they need a category to feel safe. And you no longer fit into the one they built. That's their discomfort, not your problem. Let them squirm while you sharpen. Let them talk while you move. They're loud because you're focused. This season isn't about proving. It's about producing. You're not here to explain why you're changing. You're here to become so undeniable that explanation becomes unnecessary. You're not acting different to impress. You're acting aligned to evolve. The process you're in is sacred. Don't dilute it with validation seeking. Don't decorate it with posts. Let it be unseen. Let it be misunderstood. Because power built in silence is the kind that never crumbles. They'll see you when it's time, but not before. You don't need credit. You don't need permission. You don't need applause right now. What you need is solitude, structure, and self-respect. Because while they're watching, you're building. And one day they'll be watching from behind you. They're watching, even if they pretend they're not. Every time you say no, every time you disappear to focus, every time you turn down the distractions they still crave, they feel it. And that discomfort, that's your proof. You're rising. But don't stop to explain yourself. Don't lower your voice just to be accepted by people who are still trying to figure themselves out. The version of you that leads doesn't beg to be understood. It speaks through movement, through action, through consistency. You don't need them to clap. You need them to doubt, because their doubt is fuel. Let their whispers sharpen your resolve. Let their confusion harden your focus. One day they'll quote the lines they once mocked, but by then you won't need their words. You're not isolating. You're evolving. You're not rude. You're unavailable to nonsense. There's a difference between being distant and being focused. And you've chosen the hard road, the quiet road, the one paved with discipline instead of drama. They'll label it obsession. Later they'll call it vision. They'll say you changed, and they'll be right. You changed your standards. You changed your habits. You changed the way you carry your name. And that shift, that's what makes you unstoppable. One day they'll come back around. They'll ask how you did it. They'll want your attention. They'll call you lucky. But by then, your silence will be louder than any of their praise, because you didn't rise for recognition, you rose for purpose. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them laugh behind closed doors. You don't owe them a reaction. You owe yourself execution. Because while they waste energy on your name, you're outgrowing the version of yourself they thought they knew. Every hour you invest, every habit you master, every boundary you set, that's you building a life they won't recognize. That's why they judge, because they're watching a blueprint they don't have the courage to follow. Your growth reminds them of what they're avoiding. Your silence is power. Your distance is protection. When you stop explaining yourself, your presence becomes sacred. People learn to respect what they no longer have access to. And the ones who misunderstood your quiet will one day imitate your discipline. You're not ahead because you're better. You're ahead because you moved when it was uncomfortable, because you stayed when it was boring, because you worked when it was lonely. That's why they'll never see the full cost, only the outcome. They'll study your results, but they'll never understand your sacrifices. They'll want the glow but avoid the grind. But don't correct them. Let them misjudge you. Because real ones don't announce their rise, they just arrive. You don't need to be louder, you need to be sharper. Fewer words, more weight, less noise, more movement. You're not here to convince them. You're here to become the kind of person who no longer needs to speak because your life does it for you. You're in the becoming, that awkward, silent, misunderstood phase where everything shifts and nothing makes sense to them, but everything finally makes sense to you. And that's enough. You're no longer looking for applause. You're looking for alignment. You don't post every win. You don't defend every move. You don't share your process anymore, because the higher you climb, the quieter your circle becomes, the louder your vision becomes. And that's how you know you're on the right path. The same ones who laughed will study you. The same ones who doubted will seek your advice. But you won't be bitter. You'll be busy. Busy doing what you always said you'd do. Busy walking in what they said you couldn't have. Let them stay the same. You're not in competition with them. You're in competition with your past self, the one who made excuses, who hesitated, who needed validation. That version is gone. This version moves differently. Your habits are louder than their opinions. Your vision is more important than their approval. And your peace, that's the loudest statement of all. When they realize they can't distract you, offend you, or access you, they'll understand you've changed frequencies. Keep going. Keep walking past their noise. They don't need to get it, and you don't need to slow down. The ones who misunderstand your silence today will one day reshape their lives around the energy you protected all along. Not everyone will understand the grind you're on, and they're not supposed to. Your vision was shown to you, not them. So stop expecting people with comfort habits to understand your discipline. They won't, but they'll feel it when the results show. You are not their version of you anymore. Let that settle. Let it free you. The old version of you apologized too much, explained too often, gave too many chances. That chapter's closed. Now you move with precision, not permission. When you raise your standards, you lose access to the crowd. You lose invitations, you lose comfort, but you gain clarity, you gain momentum, you gain the kind of peace that can't be faked, and that peace is the loudest flex you'll ever have. They'll say you changed, but only because you stopped performing, you stopped shrinking, you stopped needing their energy to breathe. Now your silence says everything, and it terrifies them because they can't figure out how to stop you. You, Seer, not better than them. You, Seer, just no longer available to distractions that once controlled you. That Seer's growth, that Seer's maturity, that Seer's the price of becoming undeniable. The same people who laughed, they Seer's be the ones who say, I always knew. But you'll know, you'll remember, and you'll keep moving, not to spite them, but to honor you, because you didn't do this for attention. You did it for freedom. You did it for that quiet power that no one can take away. The deeper you go into your purpose, the more misunderstood you'll become. That's not a sign to stop. That's confirmation to keep going. Misunderstanding is the price you pay for outgrowing the version of you they were comfortable with. People don't hate your growth. They fear their stagnation. You're a mirror. And when they look at you now, they don't just see your discipline, they see the decisions they didn't make. So they project. They judge. Let them. They'll say you think you're better than them. But it's not about being better. It's about being done with the cycles, done with waiting, done with playing small. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're trying to meet the version of yourself you were born to become. Every move you make in silence builds your next level. The way you train when no one's clapping, the way you show up when no one's watching, the way you speak power into yourself when everyone else is doubting you. That's what separates you. One day they'll ask you how you did it, but they won't be able to follow your steps because they didn't watch your silence. They only saw the celebration. But you'll know it was built in quiet mornings and lonely nights. And by then, you won't need their questions. You won't need their congratulations, because you still be living in the life they said was too much, and they still be trying to imitate the very energy they once called too different. You didn't change for applause. You changed for survival, for peace, for purpose. You got tired of betraying your potential just to keep people comfortable. So you stopped explaining, you stopped proving, and you started becoming. Let them watch, let them wonder, let them write stories in their head about your silence. Because while they gossip, you're growing. While they speculate, you're separating. The more they misunderstand you, the more you realize they were never meant to come. You don't owe your process to anyone. The sacred work you do in the dark, that's between you and God, you and discipline, you and destiny. If they can't respect the silence, They don't deserve a seat at the table when the light arrives. Some will say you're distant, cold, arrogant. But the truth is, you just stopped entertaining anything that didn't match your vision. You outgrew the noise, and now your peace is louder than any argument they try to start. When they see the result, they'll assume it happened overnight. But you'll smile, not to spite them, but because you know the truth. Every day you were mocked, overlooked, doubted. You were building, quietly, steadily, like a storm preparing to rise. This is your season of silence, not because you're hiding, but because you're honoring your process. The world doesn't need another talker. It needs proof. And you're about to become living proof that silence breeds power. This is the part where most people quit. When the silence gets heavy, when the validation disappears, when the results take longer than expected, but not you. You've come too far to let doubt undo the discipline. Now is when it matters most. Anyone can grind when they're being cheered for, but the great ones, they grind when it's quiet, when it's just them, the vision, and the clock. You're building muscle most people never even think to train, the muscle of self-certainty. You've disconnected from their noise so you can hear your own voice again, that inner voice, the one that reminds you who you are when everyone else forgets, the one that doesn't beg for validation, because it knows you're already chosen. Let them think you're lost. You're not lost. You're locked in. Tunnel vision isn't a flaw. It's your protection. Not everyone deserves access to the most powerful version of you. That version is being carved in solitude. When you resurface, it won't be for attention. It'll be for legacy. The same mouths that doubted you will speak your name with respect, not because you forced them, but because you became someone who could no longer be ignored. You don't need to say a word. Just keep building, keep breathing, keep walking like the ground is yours, because it is. And when they finally ask how you did it, your answer will be simple. I moved in silence. The more you grow, the more you'll offend people who chose to stay the same. Let them be offended. You didn't come this far to make others feel comfortable. You came to unlock the version of you that refuses to die in potential. You've stopped explaining, not out of pride, but out of clarity. You no longer trade your energy for understanding. They don't need to get it. You get it, and that's enough. Your vision is between you and the future. No third parties needed. When you rise without noise, you build something sacred, something that doesn't need trends or claps to survive, something that's rooted, grounded. That's what makes it last. Noise fades, echoes fade, but character, that lives on. Every time you stayed quiet instead of clapping back, you were winning. Every time you chose progress over proving yourself, you were ascending. Let others waste time explaining. You're executing quietly, powerfully, without apology. Your silence is not weakness. It's strategy. Every step you take in silence builds momentum. Every choice you make in private prepares you for visibility. You don't need a spotlight. You need alignment. And once you've built that, the spotlight will chase you. They'll try to skip steps. You didn't. They'll try to shortcut the process. You didn't. That's why your results will last longer. That's why your name will carry weight, because you built it in silence, when nobody clapped and nobody believed but you. There's something unshakable about a person who no longer craves attention. You've entered a phase where your validation comes from execution, not from eyes watching, not from people clapping. You move because it's who you are now, not because anyone's watching. That's what terrifies them. Not your success, but your silence. Because they can't read you anymore. You don't argue. You don't explain. You just move. And people fear what they can't control, what they can't predict, what they can't reach. Let them assume. Let them guess. That's what people do when they no longer have access to your energy. But you've become too expensive for conversations that drain you, too focused for distractions that once excited you. You used to seek closure. Now you seek clarity. You used to chase answers. Now you chase alignment. That's the shift. That's what separates the ones who stay stuck from the ones who become unstoppable. There's a calm that comes when you're no longer trying to prove yourself. That stillness, That peace, that's your new foundation. That's what allows you to move with confidence even in the chaos. Because while others react, you respond. And when the time comes, when they see what you've built, they'll wonder how you did it, but you'll keep walking. Not because you're arrogant, but because you're ready. You've earned this peace, you've earned this power, and you'll protect it at all costs. Some people only understand growth when they see the results, but the ones who truly rise, they understand growth happens long before the results show, in early mornings, in unshared wins, in private sacrifices. That's where your power was born. You didn't build this through noise. You built it through repetition, through focus, through becoming the kind of person who no longer needed to announce every move. That silence wasn't empty. It was sacred. Every quiet day was building something loud. Let them come back later, amazed. Let them say, "You've changed." Say nothing. Just smile. Because yes, you did change. You stopped needing outside approval to confirm your inside knowing. You stopped performing. You became... It's easy to mimic what they see, but no one can copy what they didn't witness. They didn't see the discipline. They didn't see the decisions. They didn't see the lonely nights when you chose purpose over pleasure. That's why they'll never match your frequency. You earned what they'll try to imitate, but imitation won't match embodiment. You didn't rehearse your power, you lived it. And now everything about you carries weight. Your words, your walk, your energy, that's what happens when you build in truth. They judged you when you were planting. They'll praise you when you're harvesting, but you don't need their praise. You've got peace, and peace is priceless. Peace is what makes you powerful, and power is what makes you unreachable. This was never about revenge. It was about redemption, not from them, from yourself. From every version of you that played small, stayed silent, begged to be seen, that version is gone. This one is a force. You didn't need to win loudly. You just needed to win completely, to rise without noise, to transform without permission. And now the people who doubted you are left trying to catch up to the person you became in the dark. You didn't just move in silence. You evolved in silence. And that's why they'll never understand. They watched for fireworks, but you became fire. They expected noise, but you became the storm, quiet, steady, unstoppable. Now you walk differently. You breathe differently. You think differently, not because of validation, but because of conviction. You don't need to tell the world what you're building. You are the evidence. You don't announce power, you carry it. Let them talk. Let them imitate. Let them wonder, because the moment they try to be you, they'll realize they didn't endure the silence, they didn't do the work, they didn't die to their old selves, but you did. And that's why they'll never touch what you've built. If you've made it this far, drop a 100 in the comments. It means you're not just dreaming, you're building in silence, with fire, like the 1% that actually finishes what they start,